Today, I will be interviewed by Jack Passero, one of my esteemed interns for the summer of 2024. Jack, why don't you introduce yourself and what are we going to talk about today?
All right, thank you very much. Yes, my name is Jack Passero. I am a rising 2L at American University, Washington College of Law. Go Eagles. And today we're going to be discussing the role of artificial intelligence in copyright applications and in copyright protection. In law school, I'm currently interested in pursuing a track in intellectual property, so very fitting here, but we can just go right ahead and get into it. So the Copyright Office recently released a guidance on works containing material generated by artificial intelligence. I was wondering if you could give a brief explanation of what this guidance says to maybe a viewer who may be experimenting with AI, but is not entirely sure how protected their work might be.
Thank you. So kind of similar to patents, the copyright guidance has indicated that only human input, only human original mental conception qualifies for copyright protection. So components of a work that are done by artificial intelligence or a computer does not qualify in that regard.
Okay. And in this guidance, the Copyright Office requires, or rather in an application, that content generated by AI and content generated by a human being be separated on an application for a copyright. Can you go into a little more detail on what that means and what's required of the two?
The Copyright Office wants to have some idea of what the human actually did, or the author, versus what they did with respect to the inputs of what they provided for artificial intelligence. And so therefore there's two different boxes or entries for the copyright application. One is where you put a brief statement on the contribution by the author or the human, and then there's another box or area where you can put what elements of the work were done by artificial intelligence.
Right. And sort of on the line of that and on what you mentioned earlier in the previous question, I was wondering if you can offer your take on where the Copyright Office might draw the line on when a work is either the result of a mechanical reproduction as opposed to an author's own original mental conception as used in the guidance provided by the Copyright Office.
Fantastic question. I'm sure a lot of people are wondering the answer, even experts in the field. At this point, the guidance was just issued last year. There's litigation out there. I believe we're going to have another presentation or podcast in discussing the litigation. But where things play out, I guess we'll see. The courts are going to look at what kind of contribution, how much contribution that the author actually did. I can pretty much tell you that if you're just going to put in a prompt into like ChatGPT or DALL-E or one of these other AI generative systems and say, I want a Rembrandt-inspired image of 4 dogs walking down the street around a lake and it's nighttime, that's not going to be enough. But if you're talking about having prompts that are pages long or very detailed, or you're talking about something where the author takes the image that is generated by AI and does a significant amount of manipulation to that, creating special effects, changing things, putting their own unique stamp on it. And I think that's what I think that's what authors want. I mean, it's not going to excite them to just put something in a prompt and then output something. And they're going to want to be creative. It could be, let's say, having 5 different images or 100 images, and then rearranging the order of the images and how the images are combined together the interface between the images, or putting on whatever sounds or musical composition or wording. I mean, so there's all kinds of things that even if there's AI involved, there's still many facets to works of art or creations that will still be copyrightable.
Right. And sort of along those lines, kind of for a final question, just like a brief statement on maybe what your idea or thoughts are for where you see protection as related to AI and copyright going from here, whether that means if AI does advance and becomes almost harder to detect or something along those lines, or really does start creating on its own in a sense, where do you see any advancement in those guidelines or guidance or what that might be?
Well, I believe the guidelines say something like they're going to be seeking additional input. And as technology changes, I mean, new technology is nothing new to copyright law. When the computer started to come around, and when uh, video software came out, and graphic artists, oh, new technology. I mean, even when the internet and all kinds of things. I mean, copyright law is always changing. That's one of the exciting things about it. And there'll be new case law, and there'll be new decisions, but the world will adapt. Artists will still continue to create, and there'll be more definition. I mean, in another 30, 40 years, there'll be some new technology, and they'll say, oh, artificial intelligence was, of course, that's like nothing. So it's not something I would be scared about. It's where people, even experts in the field, are still understanding how things are going to play out, but I wouldn't say it's insurmountable. I do think that as artists, you need to appreciate what scope of protection, or at least generally what you might have and what you're not going to have. And so try to, as much extent as possible, to have your own input into a work or a compilation or a selection, and not just do a minimalist approach and rely on AI and then say, well, since I'm the one who put in a few prompts, therefore I deserve a lot of protection.
Definitely. Well, thank you very much for the wealth of information. We appreciate it very much. And I look forward to those future episodes on AI and copyright that you mentioned earlier. I think we have something coming up with music as it relates to AI and copyright. So that should be exciting. But yeah, thank you very much for your time.
All right. Well, thank you, Jack. Excellent questions to my audience. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Unraveling Intellectual Property with Michael Stein, and look forward to seeing you the next time. Take care.